Isekai Nonbiri Nouka.
Chapter 1. My name is Mashio Hiraku. After graduating university and finding employment at what turned out to be a harsh company, I spent my 20s pushing myself too hard, leading me to spend my 30s in the hospital. Male, age 39 years old. Currently, I find myself face to face with a god. Reincarnation into another world, I asked. No, it's a transfer, God corrected. A transfer, but I thought I was dead. You are, that's why I'm offering you the chance to live again in another world. And my body's. The illness has been cleansed and your organs regenerated. Otherwise, you'd perish immediately. As an added bonus, I've made you a bit younger too. Thank you, I said. No need for thanks. Sending you to another world benefits me as well. You might say that you're being reborn for me in another world. Does that mean I have to do something there? No, just living there is fine. Enjoy your second life honestly. Yes. Any complaints? Not really. That's good, but are you truly alright with this? I am. After all, I spent nearly 10 years bedridden in a hospital, having a healthy body and being rejuvenated. No complaints here. Good to hear. Well, that is, I feel bad pushing my agenda on you, so let me grant one of your wishes. My wish? Yes, like having special skills or favorable encounters. I'd like to ask for an illness-free body. A body that won't get sick. Yes. I suffered from illness once. I'd rather not go through that again. Understood. Then, a healthy body shall be granted to you. I'll grant one more wish. What but? No arguments, speak your mind. Well, if possible, could it be somewhere with few people? A place with few people. You see, after my parents died, relatives claiming kinship caused trouble. And at work too, so I'm a bit wary of humans. No, that's not quite right. I think I'm just not good at communicating with others. It needs fixing, but it'll take time. A place with few people then, your destination will be considered. One more wish is fine. Ah, that's right. Please make it so I can speak the language of where I've arrived. No problem there. You're set for basic conversations with humans, thanks to something called a kind beginner pack. Oh, I'm okay. Well then, out with it already. Even if you say that, I was always in bed at the hospital, so just being able to move is happiness enough. Most of my wishes have been granted. So then, what about this? Is there something you want to do? Your destination is a world like those found in popular games. Swords and magic abound. You could aim to become the ultimate adventurer or an unparalleled sorcerer, even just wanting to be king somewhere. Ha ha, those are all far beyond me. But wait, there was something I wanted to do once my body could move again. Say it. Agriculture. As a child during practical learning, I've always remembered holding a hoe. It's been on my mind ever since. I want to do farming. Farming's not possible. It is not impossible, the god before me replied, but it falls outside of my jurisdiction. Please wait for a moment. Yes, sir. As I waited, the god in front of me took out an old mobile phone-like device and began conversing. Though I could hear words, their meaning was completely lost on me. Perhaps they were speaking another language. Still, I could sense the excitement coming from whoever was on the other end. Sorry for keeping you waiting, he said finally, handing over a hoe. It's called all-purpose farming tool. All-purpose farming tool? I questioned, turning it over in my hand. It had a wooden handle and an iron blade. It's a fine hoe, certainly, but calling it all-purpose farming tool might be a bit much, don't you think? Currently, it's in the form of a hoe based on your image, but its shape will change according to its use. A chain. Here, if you think I want to become a sickle, it becomes a sickle. It can also freely transform into an axe, hammer, pickaxe, or shovel. Wow. And it's exclusively yours. It'll always stay by your side and return even when thrown. High performance indeed. It will also reside in your body for convenient storage. You can summon it as you wish. Give it a try. I did as instructed, storing the all-purpose farming tool within my body before retrieving it again. That's amazing. Treat it with care. Yes, I'll treasure it. Now it's time to move on. Are you ready? I'm fine, thank you for everything. Well then, take care. I listened to those words as my body melted away. When I came to, I found myself in the middle of a forest. Body check. My body moved freely, no pain at all. Seemed healthy enough, no mirror, but my hands and feet felt younger. Mid-20s? No, late teens maybe, either way, no issues there. The clothes were strange, looked like something out of a fantasy game, rough pants with a simple shirt on top. Underwear was tied up somehow. I guess it's better than being in rags. Probably part of that beginner pack Godsama talked about earlier. Next, I pulled out the all-purpose farming tool. A hoe appeared smoothly and landed in my hand. Thanks, Godsama. Oh yeah, never got his name. I don't know where to praise. Well, what's important is the feeling of gratitude. Now then, standing up, I surveyed my surroundings. It's a forest. Looking ahead, behind, to the right, and to the left, all forest. The transfer location, I do hoped for a place with few people, but this seems like a place completely devoid of them. Chapter 2. What am I to do? I've become healthier, but if things stay like this, I'll die. First is water, then food. After that, a place to sleep. These are the basics of survival. Let's move in search of water, but moving seems difficult with all these trees around. No, it might be possible to move, but there are too many trees to see far ahead. And they're thick. There are plenty here, over 1 meter in diameter. Everywhere looks similar too. This place is open for some reason, but I still can't see very far. If I keep moving like this, I'll probably get lost. But even if I do, there's no way back to here. I'm just wasting time worrying about it. Water, that's what matters now. I need to find water or else I'll die. Let me try trusting my hearing for once. Can't hear any flowing water nearby. No good. The only sounds were the eerie whisper of the wind and the cry of a beast, a cry that sounded dangerous. It seemed the beast's cries were like screams, meaning another beast was attacking it. Deep breath. First step forward. A tremendous sense of unease settled over him. It was the feeling of the ground beneath his feet. Until just now, he's been in an open space with ordinary earth beneath his feet. But here, where trees grew densely, the ground was hard. Not firm, but hard, too hard. It felt like a single slab of rock. Yet thick roots sprouted from these massive trunks, and tall grass grew on this hard surface. It was astonishing life force in plants. However, walking endlessly on such hard earth would be bad news for his rejuvenated body strength. He didn't know how it held up yet. One might underestimate the hardness of ground until they tried to walk on it. And another question arose. I'm supposed to farm this hard earth? Well, it's only tough here in the forest. Other places should be fine. I raised my hoe-shaped all-purpose farming tool and swung it down, thwack. The blade sank into the ground surprisingly easily. I pulled it out and did it again, thwack thwack thwack. Oh, this is fun. But then I realized something was off. I'd been swinging without checking where my tool would land, and there was a thick tree root right in its path. I braced myself for the impact on my arm, but none came. Instead, it felt just like before thwack. When I looked down, the root had been tilled up nicely. The part of it that wasn't covered by dirt seemed almost fertile. No, not almost. It was definitely good fertilizer. I kept swinging the hoe just like that. The thick roots of the tree had completely merged with the ground, leaving only the cultivated earth behind. And surprisingly, I wasn't tired at all. Could it be that while using this all-purpose farming tool, one doesn't tire? Indeed, a tool bestowed by the gods themselves. A sudden insight struck me. If I moved while cultivating, perhaps I wouldn't get tired. I tried it out, and sure enough, that was the case. Thank you, God. Though there were no food or water at my point of transfer, this seems to be a well-thought-out play after all. With renewed gratitude, I continued swinging the hoe. First things first, I need to find some source of drinking water. Since I'm moving while cultivating, my speed is slow. Moreover, initially, I thought that as long as there was enough space for me to move through, it would be fine. But now I realize that cultivated areas become flat, and the tool even cuts down trees without hesitation. To ensure a clear view, I've been maintaining an approximate 5-meter width. That's why, after 1 hour of cultivation, I've only moved about 50 meters. Is this bad? I don't know what time it is now, but if night falls, shouldn't I have focused more on the visibility, instead of not getting tired? No. With beasts possibly emerging from the forest, ensuring a clear view is crucial. God help me. It seems even relying on divine intervention won't work. I look at the all-purpose farming tool in my hand. Its current form is a hoe, which turns soil into fertile land as I use it. They said this tool can change shape. Like for instance, an axe. I transform the all-purpose farming tool into an axe and try it on nearby trees. No, that's not right. Axes are used to process wood. For cutting down trees, you'd need a weight. I've got it. I turn the all-purpose farming tool into an axe and swing it at a tree trunk. It slices through like soft tofu, and unlike with the hoe, the tree remains intact after being cut. Maybe my goal isn't finding water, but mastering this all-purpose farming tool. For example, I press its drill form against a massive tree trunk with a diameter over 10 meters. The drill spins and bores into the wood with ease. In less than 5 minutes, I had created a space about 1 meter wide at the entrance, with an interior height of 2 meters and roughly 4 square meters in area. The inside was rough, so I transformed my all-purpose farming tool into a rasp to smooth it out. It evened itself out nicely after just 1 pass. I thought this is like a giant squirrel's nest, as I threw the wood shavings outside. At least now I had a place to sleep. Next up was water. I changed my all-purpose farming tool into a shovel and started digging into the ground. Instead of searching for a river, I decided to dig a well. Normally, finding a river would be much easier, but with this tool, it's not an issue. The dirt flew out effortlessly. After about 5 meters, though, I realized that getting the dug-up earth out was becoming impossible. And then it hit me. How was I supposed to get myself out of this hole? I'd have to dig at an angle when it came time to leave. Wait a minute, vertical shaft. Oh no, oxygen. Crap, was I going to die? I quickly started digging upwards at an angle and managed to escape. Lesson learned. Next, I thought about creating an air passage while digging. Basically, it was diagonal digging. Occasionally, I dug air holes to secure oxygen. The main thing is that the air flows. It's completely different from my mental image of a well, but there shouldn't be any problems if I keep digging downwards. I estimated the depth at around 10 meters when water started appearing. Great. Just as planned. Moreover, because the ground was hard, instead of seeping out, water flowed sideways like a spring and began to accumulate in the hole's bottom. The problem is whether it's drinkable. There's no choice but to try drinking it eventually. For now, I won't drink it immediately. I'll leave it alone for some time. Since I'm using the all-purpose farming tool, my throat isn't dry yet. Plus, even though the ground is hard, the water might be dirty since it was just dug out. At least now I have a place to sleep, and an uncertain but potential source of water. Next is food. Should I target that animal whose voice I heard from the forest? No way. I've never hunted before. And besides, it's starting to get dark anyway. So no. I had forgotten about fire. How does one start a fire? By rubbing wood against wood. That's something I couldn't do well as an amateur, but then again. The all-purpose farming tool. Could it be used to make a lamp, or perhaps a light or flashlight? No, none of those worked either. The all-purpose farming tool can transform into anything, regardless of its name being that of a tool. Indeed, one might not consider drills and files as tools in the conventional sense, but they transformed nonetheless, becoming scissors and spoons too. However, when I imagined using it to cut wood like a chainsaw or lawnmower, nothing happened. It seemed mechanical items were out of its scope, perhaps because there weren't enough parts. Then it struck me, a magnifying glass. Success, now I could start a fire. If only the sun hadn't begun to set already. I abandoned various ideas and settled into my makeshift bed in the wooden hollow, transforming the all-purpose farming tool into a pocket knife for whittling until dawn broke. First off, let's get a cup and some plates. We'll need a tray too. And don't forget the knives, forks, and chopsticks. The materials we're using are from trees chopped down with our trusty all-purpose farming tool. As expected, while I was busy using it, my throat didn't feel parched, nor did my stomach grumble. Not even a hint of drowsiness. But since there's no fire, looks like we'll have to make do under the moonlight tonight. Guess this really is another world after all. There are 2 moons up in the sky. Chapter 3. All-purpose farming tool is a transformable device. It can be inserted and removed freely. While using it, one's throat won't dry out, hunger will not strike, nor will drowsiness set in. But what exactly does while using refer to? For instance, when all-purpose farming tool is transformed into a hoe, the time from swinging it down onto the ground until pulling it back up counts as being used. In other words, one continues to use it while continuously hoeing. This applies generally to most tools. However, consider hitting 10 nails with a hammer. While striking each nail constitutes using the tool, moving between nails does not count towards usage time. What I'm trying to say is that when all-purpose farming tool is transformed into a small knife and used for carving trinkets, its effects are active during work, but inactive while switching to the next item. Even brief periods add up over time. Currently, my throat feels parched, hunger gnaws at me, and drowsiness begins to creep in. After basking in the morning sun, I first dive into yesterday's dug-out diagonal well for a wooden cup carved with all-purpose farming tool, overnight. About 1 meter deep inside the well, water has accumulated. Carefully scooping from the cleaner upper layers, it seems drinkable. It should be drinkable. There's no choice but to drink here given my thirst. A man needs courage. I tilt the cup slightly and take a sip. No numbness or strange tastes detected. It seems like ordinary water. I want to believe it is. Because my throat is parched, I steel myself and swallow. It's delicious. Now, if there are no issues with stomach pain after some time. That remains to be seen. Time will tell. Next, I should prepare a meal. First, let me assess the situation. There's a large tree trunk where I've made my bedding. The surrounding area has been softened by my work with the all-purpose farming tool. A little ways off is an inclined well that I dug. And there's a path stretching out from where I first landed, about 5 meters wide. It wasn't meant to be a path, but it looks like one now. It must be around 100 meters long. I have the all-purpose farming tool and various small items made overnight by hand. The small items are things like cups or plates carved from wood. There's quite a few of them after working through the night. For now, I'll swing my all-purpose farming tool as I move around, searching for edible resources. My ideal was fruit from the trees. Apples or grapes would make me happy. But first, I thought to light a fire, not wanting to repeat yesterday's failure. I gathered wood shavings left over from my crafting and used my all-purpose farming tool as a magnifying glass to start it. Then, adding dry branches, I stabilized the flame. It took longer than expected, but eventually I secured a fire. But leaving it unattended was scary. I worried about forest fires. So, I decided to search for food only within sight of the fire. I planned to expand my surroundings by farming around my bed tree in circles. I worked hard, swinging my all-purpose farming tool continuously around my tree bed center, creating a 200-meter space. The all-purpose farming tool was indeed convenient, I realized while cutting trees for fuel. I found I could use it as a lever to move logs without feeling their weight. This all-purpose farming tool is useful. Behind the wooden bed frame lay several large trees, each with a diameter of about 1 to 2 meters. This ensured I'd have plenty of wood for my needs. The search for food had completely slipped my mind until fate intervened in an unexpected way while I was tilling nearby soil with my hoe. An animal appeared before me suddenly. It resembled a rabbit, but was roughly the size of a medium dog, its eyes gleaming menacingly and 2 saber-like fangs protruding from its mouth. I couldn't stop myself from swinging the hoe down at the creature. In an instant, it struck true, entering just below where its head had been hunched forward, leaving only its body behind. Though I felt a pang of guilt for taking another life, my stomach rumbled in agreement with the fortune. Well, I said to myself, this certainly changes things. I gave thanks and began to butcher the creature using my all-purpose farming tool as a makeshift knife, hacking it apart along with its fur since I had no better idea of how to proceed. Midway through, however, I realized that spilling out its innards would be unwise. The heart and liver were one thing, but the stomach and intestines likely contained what the rabbit had been eating. Given its hostile behavior towards me and its prominent grass-eating teeth, it's unlikely that it was a herbivore. Indeed, upon closer inspection, I found its intestines to be shorter than expected, confirming my suspicion of carnivorous habits. Carefully removing the internal organs without damaging them, I discarded them promptly. Next, I skinned the rabbit and prepared only the meat for consumption. I had intended to use the all-purpose farming tool as a frying pan, but changed my mind at the last minute. Instead, I cut the meat into bite-sized pieces, skewered them on wooden sticks, and roasted them over an open fire. Next time, I'll make sure to prepare some proper skewers, I muttered to myself. I also thought about creating a stone griddle for cooking in the future. With food secured, my mind began to wander with various thoughts and plans. As I ate the cooked meat, I realized it was quite bland due to lack of seasoning. But considering I'd been surviving on tasteless hospital meals for nearly 10 years, with an IV drip towards the end, this self-prepared meal felt like a luxurious feast indeed. It brought tears to my eyes. There's no way I can't eat it. No matter how much I adjust, the meat is burnt and bloody smelling. I can't fool myself into thinking otherwise. Damn it. I've got to figure out something about food supplies. With renewed determination, I ate as much as I could for now. There's still enough left over for a few more meals, to keep it from spoiling. The well is my only option, but I'd prefer not to dirty it if possible. So I decided to burn all of it and preserve it instead. Apparently, leaving meat out raw makes it harder than when cooked, so this should be better. I'll use the all-purpose farming tool, hoe, to till the discarded entrails and fur into fertilizer. My stomach still feels fine, so let's assume that means the well water is safe for now. For now, my belly is full. Chapter 4. Humans, after consuming food, must expel what they've taken in. Doing so near one's bed would be convenient for visibility, but I'd already cultivated around the tree trunk, making that impractical. Plus, it feels wrong to defecate where I've cultivated, and leaving untouched areas seems unwise, as I might cultivate them later. Feces and urine can become fertilizer, but fresh waste isn't useful yet. It needs fermentation first. Though with my all-purpose farming tool, anything could potentially be turned into fertilizer. But using it on my own waste feels unpleasant. So, after securing a place to sleep, water, fire, and food, I sought out a toilet next. I chose a spot directly opposite the well from my bed tree, far enough not to smell but close for convenience. Considering future needs, I dug down about 2 meters at an angle. Going straight down isn't practical. I widened the back end slightly for space. This should suffice for years, hopefully. To prevent waste seepage contaminating groundwater, I used a hammer to pound the floor and walls until they were solid as concrete. Next, I boarded up the slanted hole with wooden planks on the surface. The wooden planks were crafted from secured lumber using the all-purpose farming tools, saw, and chisel. They felt no different than those sold at hardware stores. Normally, one would need to dry the wood before processing it to prevent cracking later on, but with the all-purpose farming tool, saw, and chisel, drying seemed unnecessary. The all-purpose farming tool is truly convenient. This sealed-off space serves as an entrance exit for removing waste from the toilet inside. Next, I dug a fist-sized hole straight down at roughly the center of the underground space I had created. The shape of the all-purpose farming tool resembled a giant corkscrew. Although its length was about my own height, so I worried it might not reach the underground space, once I started turning it, it extended deeper and deeper until it reached successfully. I suppose this is what they mean by digging a well. Anyway, I laid out wooden planks to cover the hole like a floor. Then, I opened up one spot on the floor to align with the ground's hole and prepared the toilet seat. The toilet seat was made from a wheel-cut piece of wood that fit just right. I prefer Western-style toilets over traditional ones, especially those designed for short people like me. To ensure it wouldn't wobble, I carefully crafted and secured both the wooden planks and the toilet seat in place. Next, walls. Using the all-purpose farming tools hammer, I struck sturdy-looking logs from all 4 sides to create pillars that would support them. Although my own height felt insufficient for this task, using other lumber as a stepping stool solved the problem. The pillar height was roughly 2 meters tall, with about 2-meter intervals between each one, creating what seemed like a 2x4 meter space. The toilet seemed too spacious. No, it's better than being cramped. A full open layout would be problematic, but having some space is necessary. Yes. Carving grooves into the pillar like trees and fitting wooden boards into them to create walls. Initially, all sides were walled up, causing a panic as an entrance had to be secured. No door was made for the entrance. Instead, wood was placed like a screen at a distance away to serve as a privacy barrier. Good job so far. Next, the ceiling. The ceiling remains unfinished. Open feel, leave that for later. For now, fetch water from the well using a large cup, not quite a bucket, and sit on the newly made toilet. Water fetched is for hand washing and post-use flushing. Oops. No leaf paper prepared. That was close. I dashed into the forest to find leaves suitable for wiping. None were perfect, but found some decent grass instead. Hope it doesn't cause rashes. I was too busy with the experiment to have time for such luxuries. I couldn't squat, what a relief. After that, I started working on the ceiling. Since I didn't know how to make an angled roof, I just laid it flat at 2 meters high. Surprisingly, it felt quite cramped at that height. It was about as tall as a sliding door, with its top slightly raised. Next time I build something, I'll consider making it taller. Once the ceiling was securely in place, it got too dark, so I made countless small skylights along the upper part of the walls for daytime lighting. For nighttime light, I carved out wood like a hibachi and lined it with ashes. Even though it's wooden, there's still a risk that it might catch fire. But I'll leave that as an improvement point to address later. Next, I wanted something tank-like for hand washing and toilet cleaning. But unfortunately, I didn't have the technology to create a water storage tank out of wood. So I carved out a large piece of wood instead. Thanks to the all-purpose farming tool, filling up the makeshift tank with water was more tiring than making it in the first place. Civilization sure is tough. Anyway, the toilet is finally complete. I'm satisfied. Chapter 5. After completing the toilet, I returned to my bed and slept. Although it might not be ideal to sleep during daylight hours when one could be active, if you're tired, you're tired. I think I slept for about 3 hours based on how I feel, but the sun hasn't set yet. Let's assess the current situation. Bed, water, fire, food, and toilet. Today has been manageable. However, looking ahead to tomorrow and beyond, food is the main concern. Currently, we only have some rabbit-like creature meat that we fortunately obtained. Since using the all-purpose farming tool suppresses hunger, I've been reducing meal frequency. But there's probably enough for about 5 days or so. Before then, I'd like to find new ingredients. But first, let's consider tonight, of course. It's best to sleep at night, but the forest is scary. That tooth-bearing rabbit was quite large and seemed hostile, even if it were just a rabbit. And what if it were something bigger, like a bear? That would be dangerous. While fire has been made, I've heard that wild animals aren't necessarily afraid of it. They might even become curious. Anyway. For now, let's create a door to block the entrance of my bed made from tree trunks. Upon closing the door, the interior became completely dark, presenting various challenges. Starting a fire here would likely result in death by burning or oxygen deprivation. Let's save that for future consideration. Next, the fence. Using branches from trees chopped down with the all-purpose farming tool, and making them as straight and large as possible before arranging them into logs to create a makeshift fence around the bedding wood, well, and toilet. It wasn't an impressive cattle fencing type of barrier without nails, but it should serve its purpose against beasts. The log fence seemed to nicely mark out my territory, so I got carried away and ended up enclosing about 100 meters by 100 meters. Perhaps that was too much. Regardless, with the completion of the log fence as the day drew to an end, I decided to retire for the night. Upon closing the door again, it was indeed pitch black inside. No work could be done in this state, but oh well. Get air hole. Oh no, oh no. The darkness made it impossible to find the door at first, causing a brief moment of panic. After finally locating and opening it, I decided to create several air vents before settling down for sleep. Phew. Morning arrived. I began constructing a moat outside the log fence using logs from the nearby forest. The fence alone didn't provide enough security. I had woken up multiple times during the night due to anxiety. Building this moat would ensure better peace of mind while sleeping. The width was approximately 150 centimeters, and the depth around 2 meters, estimated. While there were gaps in the log fence for entry and exit points, the moat completely encircled it. Next, I constructed a bridge using wooden planks. Although these planks were incredibly heavy without my all-purpose farming tool, moving them wasn't an issue given that only I was present here. Good job. With this setup, I could finally rest easy. I hope everything will be fine. Let's think positively. Now that the safety of my bedding has been secured, it's time to focus on finding food next. However, constructing the moat took quite some time, and now the sun is beginning to set. Perhaps pushing myself too hard today isn't wise after all. For now, let's call it a day here. Thought it might be fun to have some entertainment, but there was none. Without using the all-purpose farming tool, my stamina would decrease. So until sunset, I decided to use the all-purpose farming tool, like a hoe, and create fields in the shape of farms. After all, that's what I wanted to do, farm. Outside the moat, I stood with my hoe ready, wondering if there was some standard size for these fields. Even if there were, it'd be hard to measure without tools. So roughly, I chose a 50-meter square area and started creating furrows within that space using only the hoe. It was quite enjoyable watching the field take shape before me. To prevent trampling, I piled up earth around its edges. Looked good so far. Then suddenly it hit me. I realized something terrible. There were no seeds or seedlings. What's the point of creating a field if you can't plant anything? I spent all night working on that field. It was an all-nighter under the moonlight, which made the darkness bearable. Wielding the hoe mindlessly, I cultivated a field. Here are carrots over their potatoes, and beyond that cabbage. What else shall I grow? This was pure escapism. With the all-purpose farming tool, my throat remained unsated, hunger at bay, and no trace of drowsiness. I could keep going indefinitely. Before I knew it, dawn had broken, with logs encircling my bed and a moat surrounding them all, like another field itself. Ha ha ha, could there be plants that grow in the forest? Reluctantly, I began to till the woods. The all-purpose farming tools, hoe made travel convenient, but finding suitable flora seemed unlikely while using it thusly. Grass and trees became fertilizer upon contact with its blade. Such finesse was beyond me. Previously, a tooth-bared rabbit had fallen prey this way. Chuckle. Again. Another one appeared before me, seemingly the norm for these parts, its hostility plain as day. The hoe around my neck was the same as last time, turning my head into fertilizer and leaving the body behind. I'll take it gratefully. After tilling the forest until sunset, I didn't find any plants suitable for planting, but I managed to get 3 rabbit bodies. There were 4 rabbits in total, 4 birds, but one had its neck left on while its body became fertilizer. This confirmed once again that the hoe's handle also becomes fertilizer. I offered a prayer and used it as fertilizer too. The rabbit bodies were about the size of medium dogs, making them difficult to carry. However, with the help of the all-purpose farming tool, I could hook onto them just like wood, making them lighter. Thank you so much, all-purpose farming tool. After expressing my gratitude, I ate some rabbits and decided to get a good night's sleep tonight.
Reusing Audiobook.